Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Clauda.
Hey guys, I'm David Benjamin.
And I am Jamie Menninger.
Today, we will be presenting a boundary and ethics scenario involving dual relationships in couples therapy. Our case centers on a therapist who is invited to attend the wedding of a couple they have been treating for 18 months following infidelity, significant relational distress, and extensive trust repair work. Although therapy is nearing termination, the couple expresses that the therapist is part of their story and that it would feel incomplete not to have the therapist present at their wedding. At first glance, this invitation might appear harmless, even flattering. However, ethical dilemmas in social work can arise even from positive therapy outcomes and good intentions that can blur professional boundaries.
So in this scenario, it raises important ethical questions. Does termination eliminate dual relationship risk? Does client gratitude justify a boundary shift? Does the power differential truly disappear? Who does attending actually benefit? And what are the long-term implications for professional neutrality? And last, how does the NASW Code of Ethics guide our decision making in ambiguous situations? So throughout this presentation, we will not be approaching this in a simple yes or no issue. Instead, we will demonstrate ethical reasoning grounded in specific NASW Code ethics sections and professional standards.
Our presentation will include, first, a brief role play of the scenario, followed by a structured panel discussion analyzing the ethical implications of the NASW Code of Ethics. We will then look at a revised best practice response and conclude by reflecting on professional boundaries and the importance of maintaining role clarity. Our goal is to demonstrate how ethical decision making requires intentional reflection, consultation, and adherence to professional principles, even when the invitation feels positive and affirming.
Now, this is the role play. As we approach termination next month, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the consistency and the effort that you've both demonstrated over the last year and a half. Rebuilding trust after betrayal requires sustained vulnerability that you both have shown here in this space. You've both been accountable for your actions and you've been emotionally tolerant of one another. There were some sessions that were heavier than others and even uncomfortable and painful, and you both stayed present in the room for those times. More importantly, the progress that you guys have made here belongs entirely to you. The communication skills that you guys have built, the effort you've made to repair and rebuild your relationship, the ability to now pause and respond instead of react emotionally, that all came from your work.
There were months where I thought we wouldn't make it. I remember driving here wondering if this was the session where we decide to separate.
Yeah, I remember that first session after everything came out. I didn't think we'd survive that week. I thought it was over.
And yet you both kept showing up, even when the sessions were tense, even when one of you didn't want to be here. That level of commitment is what rebuilt the stability in your relationship.
Didn't feel stable for a long time.
Felt like we were just surviving.
Yeah, that's valid. Early on, you were just stabilizing. And later, throughout our sessions, you began to rebuild. And now you're sustaining. That progression is very significant.
Well, that's actually part of why we wanted to ask you something.
We're getting married in June.
Congratulations! That's a meaningful step.
It's small, Just family and the people who supported us through everything.
The people who saw us struggle and still believed we can make it through.
And honestly, you're one of those people. We would really love to have you there.
That's meaningful to hear, and I don't take that lightly.
You saw us at our worst. You helped us communicate again with each other.
You held us accountable when we didn't want to be.
We probably wouldn't be getting married if it weren't for you. You're part of our story now.
Yes.
I want to respond thoughtfully because what you're asking is important. My role in your lives has been as your therapist. That role carries very specific boundaries designed to protect both of you and the work that we've done here in this space. Attending the wedding could potentially shift that role into something more social and personal rather than professional.
But we're basically done with therapy.
We only have a few sessions left. It's not like we'd still treatment.
It's not like we'd expect anything from you there, just to come and celebrate with us.
Honestly, it would really, really, really hurt if you say no.
I hear that. And I want to acknowledge how important this feels to you. The invitation reflects a lot of gratitude within me, and that means something. At the same time, I have to consider professional boundaries and long-term implications. The therapeutic relationship that we have built is structured intentionally. The work that we've done here allows for clear roles, clear expectations, and defined limits.
Could we be overthinking this?
It's just a celebration. Lots of people invite mentors or people who have helped them.
It may feel simple from your perspective, but from mine, I have to evaluate it through a professional lens. The relationship that we've built exists within a clinical framework here. And even as we approach termination, the history of the work that we've done together, the vulnerability that you've shared here in these sessions, the disclosures, and the power dynamic, it remains part of that structure.
We wouldn't see you as our therapist there.
I understand that intention. However, the reality is that the professional history doesn't just disappear in a different setting. My presence would change the nature of our relationship.
Wow.
It could introduce a secondary social role layered onto the prior professional one. And that can shift our neutrality and clarity, especially if you ever needed support again in the future.
We don't think we'd need to come back.
Oh, and I hope you don't. What you've built here is really meaningful, and knowing that you're taking the next steps shows that. But part of my responsibility is to plan for possibilities, not just for current expectations.
So you're basically saying it's complicated.
Yeah, because it is. It deserves careful thought rather than just an immediate response. And I owe that to you both. It means a lot to me that you would want to share your special day with me. That speaks to the trust that we've built here and our therapeutic relationship. However, it is something that I need to think through carefully. The therapeutic relationship that we have exists within these boundaries for a reason. And these boundaries are part of what allowed you to feel safe enough to do the work.
We didn't realize it would be such a big deal.
It's not about the size of the event, it's about preserving the structure that supported your growth. We are now moving into the panel discussion. So, from a clinical lens, the scenario we demonstrated is multi-layered. The couple expresses their gratitude, emotional attachment, and there's even a little subtle pressure in there when one partner says it would be really, really hurtful if the therapist declined their invitation. This is not just appreciation for the relationship and for the therapist. This also has the potential to move beyond that professional therapeutic relationship and into a more social, personal, friendly arrangement. So clinically, we must consider transference dynamics. The couple may be attributing their relational stability heavily to the therapist rather than internalizing their own growth. If the therapist attends the wedding, it might reinforce that externalized attribution rather than their own autonomy, that what they've built for their relationship to be stable and sustaining. Under the NASW Code 1.01, commitment to clients, as social workers, our primary obligation is to promote client well-being first and foremost. So this is where the therapist must ask themselves that internal question. Who does this benefit? Does attending the wedding strengthen the couple's independence and confidence in their own work? Or does it primarily benefit the therapist's sense of validation and inclusion? The therapist must evaluate whether countertransference, even a positive countertransference, is influencing their choice.
Let's also look at this in an ethical lens. So the primary standard here in the NASW Code 1.06, conflict of interest in dual relationships. So the code states that social workers should avoid dual relationships when there is risk of exploitation or potential harm. The word risk is critical here because harm does not need to occur. Foreseeable potential is pretty much enough. So attending the wedding will create one, a secondary social relationship, two, a public association outside the therapeutic frame, and lastly, a shift in professional boundaries. So we must also consider Code 1.03, informed consent. Clients should understand the scope and limits of professional relationship. If post-termination boundaries were not clearly discussed at intake, this invitation may reveal ambiguity in role expectations. And so Code 1.07, which is the Privacy and Confidentiality Code, is implicated as well. Even if the couple openly discusses therapy, the therapist has an independent obligation to safeguard confidentiality. Public attendance signals prior professional involvement. And Code 2.05, consultation, requires when ethical obligations are unclear, social workers seek supervision. This is not a decision that's made impulsively. Um, so consulting and documentation would be highly, highly essential. And additionally, Code 4.01, which is the competence, it requires adherence to professional standards, including maintaining appropriate boundaries, even in positive circumstances.
And I'd like to discuss risk management and the long-term implications. From this perspective, we must project forward. What happens if the couple returns to therapy after marital conflict? What if one partner later feels the therapist favored the other? What if the marriage ends and one partner seeks individual therapy? Attending the wedding embeds the therapist into a symbolic milestone that can compromise neutrality later. Termination does not eliminate the power differential. The therapist still holds privileged information about betrayal, trauma, sexual history, and emotional vulnerabilities. Ethical reasoning requires consistency. If the therapist would not attend a former client's birthday party, why would a wedding be different?
We will now do the repaired response role play. Hi, guys. So I've taken the time to reflect carefully on your invitation, and I want to begin by acknowledging how meaningful it is that you would think to include me. That tells me the work that we've done here has mattered to you.
It really has. You've been a part of such an important chapter for us.
It just feels natural to invite you to our wedding.
I understand why it feels that way. Over the last 18 months, we've addressed very personal and vulnerable parts of your relationship, which created a strong connection between us within this therapeutic space. At the same time, My role has been clearly defined as your therapist solely, and that role exists within professional boundaries that are designed to protect both of you and the integrity of this work.
But we're finishing therapy. It wouldn't change anything.
Even when therapy is nearing termination, the professional structure remains important. Ethical standards, particularly those addressing us having a relationship outside of here and even a conflict of interest, would require me to avoid those situations that would shift our relationship in any way from a therapeutic one into a personal one. Attending your wedding would do exactly that. And that shift carries potential risks, even if they're not immediately obvious.
What kind of risks?
Primarily role confusion, and changes in our neutrality here. If at any point in the future you sought additional support individually or as a couple, my participation in a major life event could complicate my objectivity of how either of you experience me in that role. You guys could also view me as more of a friend than as a therapist. And professional ethics require me to consider not only the present circumstances we're seeing here, but also any future implications.
We wouldn't expect you to do anything there. Just be there with us, support us, celebrate us.
I appreciate that. However, ethical practice is not based solely on expectations in the moment. It is based on maintaining these clear and consistent boundaries, and the boundaries are part of why you feel safe here to do the work. If I were to attend, it would just introduce a secondary relationship layered onto our professional one. And under the code of ethics, I have a responsibility to avoid dual relationships when there is potential risk, even if that risk is unintended.
I see. So you're saying it's not appropriate?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's correct. In order to remain consistent with professional standards and protect the clarity and intentionality of our work, I will not be able to attend the wedding.
It's disappointing, but we understand.
I appreciate your understanding. This decision is not about lack of care for you guys. I am so supportive and so happy for you guys, and for your wedding. It's a huge thing that you guys are doing together and a really big milestone in your relationship. But this is more about upholding the professional structure that supported the progress that you've made. All the stability that you've built belongs to you. The communication skills, accountability, and the repair work you've done are yours to carry forward.
We're still very grateful for you and all you've done for us.
Gratitude means a lot to me. I am genuinely proud of the growth that you've demonstrated, and I will absolutely celebrate your progress within this professional space. And before we close today, I want to make sure that we leave this conversation clearly and respectfully. If there are any feelings that come up for you regarding my response, disappointment, confusion, anything at all, we can process it all here. And that's part of our work here together.
It makes sense. It keeps things clear.
Yeah, it actually helps us to see that therapy is in its own space.
Exactly. And preserving that space is part of honoring the work that you've done. And I'd be more than happy to hear about the wedding and also see some photos. And again, congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in conclusion, this scenario pretty much illustrates the ethical dilemmas often emerges from positive outcomes rather than crisis.
Termination does not eliminate the power differential. Dual relationship risk must still be clearly evaluated.
Ethical decision making requires asking the difficult questions, including who does this benefit? Is there foreseeable risk? Am I influenced by personal gratification as the social worker?
And the NASW Code of Ethics provides guidance through sections 1.01, 1.03, 1.06, 1.07, 2.06, and 4.01. So when applied collectively, they emphasize client welfare, boundary clarity, consultation, and professional integrity.
By declining the invitation, we protect neutrality, safeguards future therapeutic possibilities, and preserves the structural containment that made the work effective.
Boundaries do not equal rejection. Boundaries can be seen and utilized as signs of respect. Maintaining boundaries honors the profession, the client's autonomy, and the therapeutic framework. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.